Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Nine. I hope you are doing great. Came across videos and black people and other people are talking about how my people have been treated, and also some people will tell you that people are not angry enough and all that. And then somebody was talking about racism is not about politics. It's not about cutting tax and all that. Somebody actually had a platform to make people's life easier, to make people's life better, right? But the person used the platform to say, if I see a black pilot, I will ask if the person is qualified and all that. But there are some places in United States that people are not getting good water. They don't think about all this. They don't think about how to better some certain people or a group of people, or how life will be absolutely easier for every other person. But they turn around and tell you that some people do not deserve anything, or some people are not mentally smart to to be some certain kind of thing. In some places, there are some places you go to as a black person, you are being segregated for no reason. They don't know you. Just because you are a black person, they will tell you this toilet is not for you, this one is for us. Just because of just your skin color. They don't know anything about you. And I am asking, will racism ever help? Will it ever stop? I mean to say. Let's get into this video.
You want to know what the real issue is? White Americans have such a deep problem with us, but it's not because we're loud or proud or free, but it's because our very existence ruins their favorite story. We ruin their fairy tale because in their story, they're the heroes, they're the saviors. America is the greatest country in the world. Land of the free, home of the brave. They sold that story to the world for centuries. But then we come along and we say, no, America isn't that great. Not for us. We say, look at the blood, the stolen lives, the stolen land. And then suddenly, that perfect image that they've painted starts to crack. And they hate that. Because once the truth is out, once you expose the genocide, the slavery, the segregation, the systems built on our suffering, they can't play the hero anymore. They have to face the villain in the mirror, and they don't want that smoke. That's why they fight so hard to erase our history, to ban books, to censor curriculum, to pretend that racism is over. It's not about protecting kids, it's about protecting their image. Because if America ever told the truth about itself, then it would have to admit that its greatness was built on theft, terror, and oppression. So, no, they don't hate us because we lie. They hate us because we tell the truth. And that truth destroys the delusion they've been living in since 1776.
I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to be Black everywhere. Not just in America, not just in the South. I'm talking globally here. Because wherever we go, there's a version of the same fight that's just waiting for us. And it's one thing to feel like a second-class citizen in your own country, but it's another thing entirely to realize the whole world sees you that way too. You ever hear people say, just leave, America's the problem? As if racism is something that you can outrun. As if anti-Blackness is some sort of American export. So let me tell you something. In Brazil, which is the blackest country outside of Africa, police kill Black people like it's sport. But it's not just the cops, it's the beauty industry that sells skin bleach. It's the store owners that follow you. It's the neighbors that flinch when your child walks by. In the UK, you can speak perfect Queen's English, but still be denied housing, passed over for jobs, and told to go back to Africa like your birth certificate doesn't say Birmingham. In France, they don't need to say Black to criminalize you. They just hide it behind secularism. They ban your head wrap, regulate your natural hair, silence your protest chants, and when you speak up, they act like you're the problem. And the people? They'll clutch their bags, they'll ignore you in interviews, and whisper the N-word when they don't think that you understand French. In China, Black students were kicked out of housing during COVID just for being African. But long before that, there were restaurant bans, fake job ads saying no blacks, and videos mocking our features going viral with millions of likes. In India, you'll be fetishized on one corner and insulted on the next. And if you're African, they'll stare, laugh, and sometimes they'll spit on you. In Ukraine, when the war broke out, white refugees got seats, and black refugees got barricades. In Libya, we're still being sold in 2025. And nobody's storming embassies for that. Let that sit, because being black is not the issue. The world's relationship with blackness is. And here's what bothers me the most. They want our rhythm, but not our presence. Our slang, our dances, our music, our clothing. But not our humanity. They'll rock locks on a runway but call them ghetto at school. They'll say Wakanda forever and still scream monkey at the next black soccer player. They'll ask to touch your hair, or not even ask. They'll mock your nose, and then turn around and say that you're too sensitive. And don't even get me started on influencers. Black American culture gets ridiculed as loud or uneducated until someone else steals it for likes. We're told that we don't have culture by people that are dancing to our beats, speaking our slang, and wearing our clothes. We are everywhere, but still nowhere. Loved, but not protected. Seen, but never safe. So if you've been feeling it too, that quiet, aching exhaustion that comes from just trying to exist, you're not broken, you're not paranoid, you're black, in a world that's been trained to hate you. That hate lives in systems, but it also lives in people, in the stares, in the silence, in the smiles that tighten when you walk into the room. But here's what they can't erase. We are global, we are ancient, and we are surviving. From Accra to Atlanta, London to Kingston, we are still here. And the moment we stop letting borders divide us, that's the moment we become unstoppable.
White history is a part of the core curriculum while black history is an elective. This illustrates how much cultural education is valued when it comes to white folks versus black folks. You can graduate with a 4.0 in this country valedictorian and not know nothing about black history at all. However, you can't even be seen as a good student if you don't know what people of a European descent have accomplished in this country. There's no way you can graduate. Now, a lot of folks love to talk about how black history is American history, and it sounds cool. You know what I'm saying? It sounds very believable as well. But when it comes to the curriculum and learning objectives, that does not reflect the way in which black history is always already a part of American history. This is why we should demand an inclusive black history education nationwide. I know I ain't the only one that feel this way. We got to move beyond heroes and holidays. I think we have to demand the end of the siloed black history that reduces centuries of experience to a few painless figures, a little part of the chapter. Our children deserve to explore the systems of power and economics built by enslavement. The ideals born in the Harlem Renaissance and the everyday brilliance of black people every day throughout history, especially the Black Wall Streets, the HBCUs that built communities in the face of violent exclusion, as well as the individuals and the entities that still doing work today. Sign the petition today. Demand more inclusive education.
You ever notice how every time a new administration comes in talking about reform, it somehow ends with black families losing support? Well, that's exactly what the National Black Child Development Institute warned about when they spoke up against Donald Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. See, the NBCDI has been fighting for over 50 years to make sure that black children get a fair start, from early education to healthcare. And they saw that bill for what it was, a rollback of decades of civil rights progress dressed up in patriotic packaging. They called it deeply regressive, and they were right, because cutting Medicaid and child care programs doesn't make America beautiful. It makes it harder for working class families, especially black mothers, to survive. Now, what's powerful is that the NBCDI is not partisan. They do not do politics. They do protection. They stood up to Trump's deregulation plan that would have gutted public service standards and widened racial gaps in early childhood care. That's courage, and that's leadership rooted in love for our children, not loyalty to any party. So when we talk about defending democracy, we can't just think about elections and courts. We gotta think about the classrooms, the clinics, the daycare centers, The places where our babies learn whether America actually loves them back. Because the truth is this, any law that starves our children of opportunity is an act of violence. And any organization that fights back, like the NBCDI, deserves our full support. No kings, no tyrants, no excuses. Just justice for our children.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but I get the impression from the past several months on this app that many people feel that in the United States of America, brutal racism and racialized violence and also segregation was solely relegated to red southern states. In my past videos, because I am a Southerner, born and raised, and I still live in the South, I have had some commenters, and they were black, tell me, well, why do you still live in the South? Let me help you all understand something. Racism is pervasive and always has been throughout the entire United States. There is this fairy tale that only brutal racism occurred in the South. The South had the majority of the agricultural plantations, and there have been so many slave narratives centered on the South. But let me assure you that anywhere that white Americans are and live, you're going to have racism, especially anti-black racism. Let's talk about the migration of black Americans from the South to the North. Yes, they did migrate up north because at the time, many black Americans believed that there were better job opportunities and less racism up north. When they got to the North, they were sadly mistaken. Have you all ever wondered why there are massive black ghettos in many major cities in the North? See, people don't ask why these things exist. Again, this is why we need to know real American history, black American history, which is American history. Because when the black Americans migrated from the South, white folks up north didn't want to live next to them. Racist slumlords took advantage of it and rented out tenement buildings and houses and other structures that many were not fit for human habitation to those black migrants who didn't have any other choice. They had nowhere else to live. When they got to the factory jobs where they thought they would have more opportunity, the white employees didn't want those jobs. They didn't want to compete. And so black Americans experienced racialized violence there too. And the unions did not want black members at all. There were lynchings and other types of racialized violence. And then, yes, there was segregation up north. It wasn't a Shangri-La for black Southerners to move up north or to move out west either. And let me assure you, these northwestern states like Oregon and Washington and Idaho, I challenge you to go there and see what type of reception you get. No, y'all, racism was prevalent everywhere throughout the United States, in the South, in the Midwest, in the Northwest, on the West Coast, on the East Coast, on the Northeast, everywhere. So please get the idea out of your head if you ever thought that brutal racism was only in the South and that it was much better any other place in the United States of America. No, it was not. Anti-black racism is as American as apple pie, y'all. Oh, and I forgot to mention Central Park. The site where Central Park now exists used to be a vibrant black American community by the name of Seneca, Seneca Village. You all look that up and find out what happened to Seneca Village and what New York City did to get rid of that once vibrant black American community to make room for Central Park.
So there's a particular kind of delusion that comes with privilege. It's this belief that the oppressed spend all their time plotting, seething, and scheming against their oppressors. A lot of white people have to center themselves in every story, even the ones that have nothing to do with them. They assume that every black person, every black conversation is secretly about them, that every critique of racism is a personal attack, and that every boundary we set is rooted in resentment against them rather than self-preservation. This projection. Because they can't stop thinking about race, our culture, our existence. long enough to realize that we have entire worlds, joys, and daily lives that exist beyond them. They are constantly inserting themselves in our conversations because the white imagination cannot conceive of a world where they are not the protagonist. Every declaration of Black autonomy feels like rebellion. Every act of joy feels like defiance to them. They genuinely interpret our existence as a response to them because that's how they relate to the world, through dominance and comparison. It's so glaring. Meanwhile, in real life, we're busy. We're paying bills. We're raising kids, doing hair, making art, writing stories, and occasionally having brunch with bottomless mimosas. We don't sit around thinking about white people. White defensiveness when it comes to Black people and Black spaces and Black discourse, it isn't just arrogance. It's insecurity disguised as some sort of moral outrage. White people genuinely cannot fathom a world where they are not the main concern. Our lives are not mirrors for white reflection. I need y'all to understand that. So no, we don't think of you as much as you think of us. That's projection. We are way too busy thinking about ourselves. I have an article coming to my Substack soon, so.
Child, I see where the confusion is. Because it seems like we need a quick masterclass. Baby, racism is not a political opinion. A political opinion is about taxes, healthcare, education, things we can debate without denying someone's humanity. Racism is when you say someone doesn't deserve dignity, opportunity, or safety because of their skin color. Baby, that's not politics. That's oppression. And here's the game people play. Talking about, oh, I'm just a conservative or I'm just a liberal, to cover up their racism, bigotry, and homophobia. You get the drift. Baby, we can debate immigration politics all day long. But when you start calling immigrants invaders, that's not policy talk. That's propaganda. Or let me bring this home for y'all. Take Jackson, Mississippi, majority Black city, where folks still can't get clean drinking water. They can't trust the water coming out of their faucets. Whole neighborhoods have been on boiling water notices for months and some even years. Or take Lowndes County in Alabama, where raw sewage runs through some people's backyards because the state never invested in proper sanitation. That's not bad luck, baby, that's environmental racism. And now, the protections that gave us the right to fight back, like civil rights laws to prove discrimination, baby, they being rolled back and taken away. That means if your kids are drinking unsafe water or your neighborhood is redlined out of funding, it's almost impossible to hold anyone accountable. And layer that with a person that has a huge platform capable of influencing millions and says things like this.
If I see a Black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. When Blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today, they were less murderous, there was less break-ins. Why is that? And the data shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil. A certain skin color now gets their own summertime celebration. Oh, wow, look how far Blacks have come. It has now become a racial complaining day. Remember what BLM stands for: burn, loot, and murder.
Yeah, DEI stands for one of the biggest. Earn it.
Black Americans are poorer today in 2024 than they were in the 1950s. The disappearance of the Black father has been the #1 driver of Black poverty in this country. We at least agree that Black dads not being around is a bad thing.
Anyone's father not being around is a bad thing.
Baby, that signals something deeper. So no, racism is not an opinion, it's violence. We gotta stop letting people hide behind politics to excuse hate. Because when we keep calling it politics to be politically correct and not step on toes, baby, we let these people off the.
So when I said white people want a destiny swap with Black people, what I meant was there is this constant desire to co-opt everything that Black people have in an attempt to regain the culture that they gave up in order to assimilate to what it means to be white in America. So you see how a lot of white people, when they first came to America, they came from all different parts of Europe, whether that was Italy or Ireland or just Britain, and they all had their own distinct cultures. But the thing about it is, when you get to America and you're actively trying to create a racial hierarchy that says you are better than one group of people because of the color of your skin, the whole point of it was conformity, to dumb it down as simple as possible for everyone to get into the program of and everyone to get on board with. And that doesn't give room for diversity of cultures. So whether you were Irish or whether you were Czechoslovakian, whatever it was, that whiteness, the idea of whiteness, would not allow for that culture to grow and to breed. That is why things like respectability politics exist. It's just another tool of basically whiteness, in the sense that they've created in order to find a way to fashion against Black people and people of color. In order for the concept of whiteness in America to exist and thrive, it has to constantly find a way to intentionally remain the antithesis of everything and anything that's considered Black. That is why a lot of white culture is simply the complete opposite of Blackness, out of like a way to distinguish themselves from being anything associated with people of color. So when Black people have their own unique way of styling themselves, wearing their hair, talking, it's looked down on as a knee-jerk reaction. And yes, there's envy involved, but really it literally is their culture to identify with being the exact opposite of Black people and their culture. So that's how they uphold their identity. That's all they know. That's literally their cultural collective identity. And so because they've been very insistent on holding on to that, they've allowed their own cultural distinctive practices to like die off. Their own, what would make them uniquely them, they've allowed that to die off in exchange to be like part of the, racial hierarchy system. So
This is all I got from this video. You know, from each video I watched has its own story. And in the end, they are all saying the same thing: racism. And I was watching the video, and also I was like, what will racism ever stop? Like, what will put racism to an end? What will make racism stop? Like, what do people need to do? But then, while I was thinking that, I was like, some people just do not want you to exist. Some people just do not like you. Some people do not think that you deserve anything. Some people just do not want to see you at all. Some people think that, if they make you comfortable, that you will probably turn around and do the same thing like, So one thing something that I understood about life is that someone that does bad will never let you, like, just like someone that uses Pe0ple is always scared of people passing through their back, because they are scared that you might, like, and immediately they turn away and you pass through their back, that something will happen. They are always very vigilant because they feel like they have to be on guard, right? Except they are sleeping. That's when they let people pass through their back, because they are scared that because that is what they do. It is only the business you do that when it is selling or when it is moving. If you are not into stock, you might not know much about stock, except there must be something that will make you know about stock. I talk about racism, I talk about Black history, because that is what I talk about. I don't know if that does make sense. The video, the sister talked about how, like, they want your reading, but they don't want your blues or something like that. Black people are actually the same everywhere. I understand what Black people are going through in United States and all that. The truth is that Anywhere you go as a person, or like as a black person like me, or as a black person, African American, and all that, first of all, I just don't know, but like, why do they have to just hate you for just no reason? They don't even know me. They did not do anything. I did not do anything to them. Like, just for no reason. I am still trying to comprehend, and it's still not making sense. Just like the way she talked about how during, I think in Ukraine and Russia and this thing, how they've evacuated everybody, but they did not look for a way to evacuate black people. And like, they see no black person is allowed. Like, how? How? Everybody have to suffer because, like, they just want to make everybody suffer. Whether you're a black child, a black man, or a black, like, they don't care for no just reason. So we tell you are not angry enough. What do you want people to do? They say Black history. They told us, not me, they can't tell me. They told their people that slavery was beneficial to slaves. Then how come, if it was actually beneficial to slaves, why are you trashing the books? Ban Black history, ban African American history, ban Black books. Anything that got to ban all of them. Man, maybe I am not just in the talking about this thing is like even infuriating me the more because there is no reason. There is a video that I saw. I think Farhan, I hope I pronounced that right. He was like talking with a white woman, and the woman was like, they fear violence. And I am like, violence from who? Have you ever seen my people? Violence. Like, if there is anybody if there is any violence we need to talk about, are just from a group of people. From a group of people that have really been violent. But they turn around and they say that they are scared of violence. Violent from whom? From who? I don't know how I feel. I will draw the curtain here. Bye for now.